Welcome to KR Films Entertainment Channel. The day story is about a religious farmer who falls in love with a beautiful girl Angel who does business and thinks no other life lies beyond this. Will she realize the love of Michael or not? Nah. In mid-19th century an auction takes place at a palace paradise. We see a lot of men outside the palace betting to get a chance to meet with the finest lady in the whole of the establishment in the West Side. Angel is called, her real name is Sarah, but she doesn't tell anyone what her real name is. Because that's the only thing she had left. Angel is an illegitimate child of a pretty prestigious man and a doting mother. He had his as maid, now mistress. We see a young Sarah looking forward to a visit from her father with so much glee, but it turns out her father wasn't accepting of her existence and asked her mother to abort her as a child before she conceived. They quarreled for a bit and got physical. After sending Angel out of their presence, the father left in anger, never to return. What's more, he will eventually kick them out of the house they were living in. Back to the present, Angel takes a break with her friends after finishing her work, though she showed no emotions because she lost them a while ago. These two were the only friends she had. They trade stories of how they each got here and what their hope is for the long run. Angel does not give much input as she sees hope is a lie, and due to what she has faced in the past, it's kind of a defense mechanism against being disappointed in. Broken Michael, a content farmer in our next protagonist, tends his farm with care and diligence. Later he goes into pray and thanks God for his farm and all that he has. He then asked for some one to share all he has with. He asked for a sign from God, believing God knows the best way for him. He heads into the town to deliver farm produce, and there he saw Angel, the beauty of the town, taking a walk. He became immediately fixated on her and took it as a sign from God. He heads into the town one more time to meet this lady he perceived God has chosen for. Delving into Angel's past, we see her life after her mother had been locked out of the house. They struggled to survive as her mother sold all they had to care for their basic needs, and when that ran out, she had no other resort than doing business. She taught Angel how to read and other life coping skills. After a few months of business, she took an illness and died, leaving Angel all alone in the way. Back in prison time, we see a rebellious Angel refusing to let a customer into the room after he had paid the Duchess, the owner of the establishment. After the matter was settled, we see Michael and Angel meet for the first time, though each side had varying emotions. One was gleeful, the other not moved in. Void of emotions and full of disinterest. The misconception that he was there for meeting was clear by Michael as he proposes to her, asking for her hand in marriage. Angel reacted nonchalantly because it was something she was used to, as it was her sixth proposal this week. Due to what she had experienced in the past in the hands of men, we see her give no interest or consideration for Michael and his proposal. Time ran up and Michael had to go, only to come back to her for more chat. The next time he came to the establishment, he was approached by one of Angel's co-workers who was asked her earlier if she was interested in Michael. She answered, saying they could have him if they are so pleased. It would be doing her a favor getting him off her hands. Being told this by the co-worker not only made him feel bad but angry enough to still head upstairs and ask her. She re-emphasizes her disinterest in him, saying she doesn't even know his name. He holds her face and reminds her of it, then proceeds to kiss her, thinking he was finally about to do what she thought he also wanted. She tried to remove her clothes, but he stopped her. She then affirms her lack of feelings for him, making him leave and girly for his farm, feeling heartbroken. Here we see more an Angel's past, where her life leads to after her mother's death. A friend of her mother soldier off to the Duke, a dangerous pedophile who collects kids, abuses them and sold them when they get older. After watching her mother's friend get murdered right before her eyes, she had no other choice than to stay with the Duke and try to please his every nerve. A few years pass, Angel's all grown, and now a girl gets offered to her father. Yes, the illegitimate one, though he recognized the face he couldn't place, or she was. After finishing business, he finds out she's his illegitimate daughter. This affected both sides as she lost every emotion and her father shot himself in the head. We see after a while she escaped the claws of the Duke with health, gets on a ship to California, meets some other girls on the ship, gets mugged by the girls and ends up at paradise. Back to the present, we see Lucky try to console her and dissuade her from confronting the Duchess for her gold and freedom, but she remained firm and went to the Duchess. They have a little argument. Angel asks for gold, but the Duchess avoids the question. Angel threw a tantrum, insulting and instigating the Duchess. She broke a teacup out of anger, and this did it for the Duchess. She asked Darwin to deal with Angel. Garvin is happy to take advantage of the situation. Angel, knowing this, provoked Garvin, calling him the Duchess's girl. This made him so angry that he beat her to a pulp. Disregarding what the Duchess would say, Michael somehow gets a whip of this and hurries to see her. He pays for the debt she of the Duchess and rescues her, taking her home with him. After asking, they get married and she agreed. On their way home, we see the two cross the same path they were on. Michael continues to dote on Angel even when the first thing she said upon regaining consciousness was she also still holds the belief he just wants to get her. After 3 weeks, she fully recovers and decides to run from the house. Michael caught up to her, hands her a blanket and water for the journey, and presented her with two options: to come back home or go to town. After a while, she comes back to the house where he gives her food and a warm fire and begins to wash her feet. He then proceeds to clean her up. Later on, she asked for his help to comb your hair, which he jumps out, but she tried to get him as payment, which Michael refused, saying they were not ready. They have a little chat and the next few days were great. She falls asleep and has a nightmare where she sees Du comes into the house and wakes her from her sleep. When she got up to see only a worried Michael, she refused to tell him about the nightmare. Michael decides to show her the sunrise and takes her for a walk. They watch the sunrise together and have a moment. She then complains about his refusal of having her when he claims to be married to her. Hearing this convinced Michael that they were ready and they conducted their marriage duties. Here we meet Paul, a man who is a shadow of himself and the husband of Michael's dead sister. He is welcomed by Michael and later introduced to Angel, who he recognizes. When Paul and Angel are alone, he asked her how she trapped Michael to herself, and when told he came looking, Paul refused to believe it. He then hurries out to tell Michael about Angel's old life, but was shocked not by the fact that Michael already knew and was still happy with her as his wife. He called Angel a piece of trash and has got Michael man and resulted in a punch in the face. Michael sends Paul off with his wagon, horse and money. Since the couple talked about family, we see Angel perturbed by the fact that she could no longer bear children, as the Duke made show of that by using doctor smears to destroy her womb, feeling that Michael deserves someone better and was able to bear children. Thinking about it the whole time, she left with Paul on the way to the town. They take a break and Paul takes advantage of the situation. As payment for the ride he is providing her with, she agrees to the very familiar life she always had, and they go to the town and parted ways in the town show. She finds out that paradise was burnt down by Garvin. She's also told by a man that two girls who turn out to be her friends were trapped in the fire and lost their lives. The man then takes her for a drink at his establishment. He proposes that she could go back into business as long as the cat is agreed on, and he gets her whenever he wanted. Paul heads back to Michael to tell him where she was, apologize. As Michael hurries to the establishment and rescues her yet again, taking her home with him. Back home, she sees the grief she's put him through and washes her skin off with gold, saying she's filthy. Michael stops her from causing more harm and tells her he forgives her. They spend time together and talk, and we get Michael's backstory about his father and slaves. While heading back home, they stumble on a family with a broken down wagon and decide to help them. They build strong relationships with these strangers. The wife who was with the child gave birth in this, overjoyed everyone, especially Michael, who looked nice holding the baby. Seeing this, she left the house again, this time leaving a note that Michael and Maria should get together. When Michael saw the note, he decided to not go after her and let her come back of free will. In San Francisco, she gets a job baking pastries, but it would not last long as the Duke resurfaces in her life, burning down her business and bringing her back to the old business. About to go on stage, she prayed for assistance in freeing two small girls locked away by the Duke. She exposes the Duke to the public, and with the help of some stranger, she was able to do just that. After some time, Paul searched for her and finally convinces her to come home. As Michael was still waiting on her, he briefs her on all she had missed and asks for her forgiveness. The movie ends. Thank you for watching.